So everyone's obsessed with massive language models, but here's what nobody's talking about. Small, focused models, and they're outperforming some of their cousins in real-world applications on specific use cases. So it's like bringing a tank to a street race. Sometimes all you need is just a motorcycle. So here's the thing, is we actually need both, and we're going to break this down today. So make sure that you hang around here, and let's dive into this. Welcome to Startup Hack. I'm Spencer Thompson. Here at Startup Hack, we like to train software developers in our licensed coding boot camps and build custom software solutions for companies. With a decade of executive leadership as a fractional CTO and 25 years in software development, I've mastered transforming tech teams and products. All right, let's take a look at this here. So Elon Musk's xAI releases its flagship model, Grok 3, right? And so they released late last night on a call, and xAI's answer is to models like OpenAI's GPT-4o and Google's Gemini, which can analyze images and respond to questions, and it powers a number of huge features, right? Now, this is a huge data center, right? This is ginormous, over 200,000 GPUs. So, and xAI has been an enormous data center in Memphis containing around 200,000 GPUs to train Grok 3. So in a post on X, Musk claimed the Grok 3 was developed with 10x or so more computing power than its predecessor, Grok 2, using an expanded training set that includes filings for court cases and more. So, quote, Grok 3 is an order of magnitude more capable than Grok 2, Musk said during a live stream presentation on Monday. It's a maximally truth-seeking AI, even if the truth is sometimes at odds with politically correct. So Grok 3 is a family of models, to be precise. So it comes with all of these, which we talked about here a minute ago. So the benchmarks for these are huge, right? You can see that Grok 3 beats on almost all of these in Grok 3 Mini, right? Beats or meets all of the current for Gemini 2, DeepSeek 3, and all the leading models, right? Now, the reasoning plus time compute is also huge, right? Because you can see that it's beating all of the other models as well. So there's a lot of different features in here, a lot you can unpack, and Grok 3 really is, but I really like this guy's take on it here because he says another win for the bitter lesson. Congratulations to the xAI team that advocated new scaling laws. So here's the thing, is ultimately, they are proving that you can train a huge model and that you can vault it to the state-of-the-art territory. Now, this leap underscores a bitter lesson, and that is that machine learning, more compute, and more data is always going to be smaller, clever hacks. So while some point to streamlined approach like DeepSeek as an alternative, raw scale still wins the long term. So once again, bigger clusters and massive training runs to outpace everybody else. So Grok 3 performs at a level that, beats everybody else, and we just saw these same ones here, right? But the point here is that there's an exception to this rule, right? DeepSeek managed to compete with top players despite having a moderate computing advantage, 50K Hoppers and 100K NVIDIA H10s, right? So it's interesting to see that DeepSeek with its tiny GPU cluster and cheap training runs a model at the level of A1 Open, right? But Grok comes in and just still beats it. And so it's kind of, part of it is what the author is pointing out here is that it's proof that scaling is better than optimization. Ultimately, 100,000, 200,000 H100, of these GPUs is always going to beat smaller, more optimized models, right? But this is the point of what I wanted to get to today is yes, these big ones are going to have to exist, right? So between, like about 8 months between the two, something besides the classic CPUs also helped them. Their dominant scaling paradigm shift, right? They just have this massive amount of data and computing power to be able to process this. Now, what I really want to point out today, and what I really want to make the point of this live video here today, is to talk about how I'm a fan of these smaller models, and I really think that what we have is an opportunity to have these huge colossus that the big guys are going to play against, and then be able to use some of these optimization tricks that we're learning with LLMs to really train and hone in these small models to make them more useful. So let's talk a little bit about what distillation is, right? And I want to just read a couple of this part of this really quick here, because LLM distillation demystified, a complete guide. Large language model distillation isolates LLM performance on a specific task and mirrors its functionality into a smaller format. This lets developers get the same result they would get from an enormous model like GPT-4, or in this case like Grok 3, at a lower cost and higher velocity, albeit only for that specific task. While rarely an endpoint, large language models distillation lets data scientist teams kickstart the data development process and get to a production-ready model faster than they could with traditional approaches, right? So this is what we're seeing is really one of the big shifts is using LM distillation. You're able to train a model to be able to do something specific really well without having to start all the way from scratch. And this is what's going to see some really good moves in making AI more useful. I've talked a lot about how I'm not a huge fan of trying to run at AGI. I think the AGI play is going to end up being really frustrating for a lot of us because I don't know one that will ever even hit true AGI. That's my opinion. I think the level of computing that we will need will be crazy. Can AI be powerful and be a lot of great tools? Absolutely. So let's look at some of the examples, some of these small models here. So Mistral says its Small 3 model is a local, open source alternative to GPT-4o Mini. This new 25 billion parameter LM excels in scenarios where quick, accurate responses are critical. In fact, the model can be run on a MacBook with 32 gigs of RAM. Now, it can be, it's not going to get great results. So you're really going to need somewhere around, you're going to need a larger than 24 megabyte, so probably somewhere around 48 megs to really run this thing super efficiently. But Mistral says Small 3 can compete with Llama 3.370 billion. So see, we're already seeing this 70 billion and 32 billion squeezed down into 24 billion, into a 24 billion parameter. So this is where distillation is really starting to really help. And I love agents will match good and middle level developers. I don't buy that personally, but that's a whole different topic for a different day. Like Mistral's other models, the 24 billion parameter Small 3 is open source, released under the Apache 2 license. So this is fantastic, and I'm a huge fan of open source because I think this is going to continue to see the acceleration of LLM as we learn from each other. So designed for local use, Small 3 provides a base for building reasoning abilities. Small 3 excels in scenarios where quick, accurate responses are critical. The release continues, noting that the model has fewer layers than comparable models, which helps its speed. So the great thing about this is really with about $1,500 to $2,000 worth of hardware, you can run a model like this one that gets really accurate scores. Your scoring on the difference between something like Grok 3 and this is going to be less than 5% on these scores, which is pretty crazy when you look at some of the advantages of being able to run this for inexpensive, right? So this then becomes something that a small business can write software against, right? They can start to use these optimized models and really begin to build against them to make sure that you're to be able to continue to use AI for a specific use case when you need specific results quickly. So let's say that you're a company working in digital marketing and you want to be able to create ad creatives quickly, right? So you'd be able to use this model and train it on ad creatives for a specific use case very quickly. So it doesn't need to know about medical data. It doesn't need to know about math, right? Like it just needs to be trained to just be able to produce digital marketing creatives really quickly. So this is one example, just one example of how we can see a lot of these start to really move. And so this is pretty exciting. So there's another technical report that demonstrates that large language models can maintain their learning capability while reducing their non-embedding parameters by up to 77%. So this is a huge lift because you can see that according to this report here, and that you can see that, this one up to 77%. We achieve this by adapting a parameter reduction technique originally developed for computer vision, replacing dense layers with optimized subwork so this is some of this optimization that we were talking about at the beginning. Now, does ultimately just 200,000 H100s packed into a data center beat this? Heck yes. But the point here to this is you want to get into something where this can be developed to be able to work in embedded, where was it? To be able to work against something that could be mobile, right? Something that could work into a small server that you work on your, on a small business to be able to run, right? these are things where you can start to work on, and developers can work against these to make them reachable for the masses. The masses can't reach Grok 3. There's no way that anybody else other than maybe 20 companies out there can even begin to afford to run something as large as Grok 3. And that's the reason why I'm a huge fan of these small models, because we love training software developers here at Startup Hack. That's our bread and butter. We love to train software developers and to help them to be able to build out this. And so to me, AI is great, but if I can't use Grok 3 to run a lot of sensitive data applications or other things without massive overhead and massive costs. So that's why I'm going to be really focusing. So I hope you'll like and subscribe, because I'm starting to do a lot of hardware research where I start to build servers for $1,000 to $2,000 that a small company could then use and start to develop against AI and train these models so that small companies can begin to develop against them. Because here at Startup Hack, we love to create software developers that create software for companies that realistically a small business can begin to use, the small to medium businesses can build against. We love to train software developers, and then we hire them and work with companies to employ them to build software for them to help their connected systems. So if you have systems that aren't connected, make sure you reach out, because we love to work with companies in our consulting groups to help them build this kind of software. So this is the reason why I'm a really big fan of these small language models. I think this is where we're going to see. I think we'll see these huge Grok 3 type size models. They're going to do amazing things. Then I think we're going to see a lot of this be trickled down into some of these smaller models where we see things like 5.3, 5.4. We see, the Llama models. We see some of these other smaller models, this Mistral Small 3, some of these other ones that are really going to start to take the world. A lot of the DeepSeek 7 and 8 billion models, there's a ton you can do with those. And a lot of people are off doing with those, using distillation and those kind of things to be able to optimize these. Now, what are your thoughts? Do you agree? Do you disagree? I love to have a great discussion. So make sure you like and subscribe. Here at Startup Hack, we love to train software developers in our licensed coding boot camps, as well as to build custom software solutions for people. So hit us up at startuphack.com/Spencer, and you can reach out and I'll respond to you directly. Otherwise, we've got some great information here for you.
Want to become a software developer but don't want to spend 4 years in college and rack up massive student loan debts? Think you need technical expertise to get started? Welcome to Startup Hack, a better way to start your software career without student loans and years without income. One-on-one tutoring is included so you never get stuck and have guidance through the whole process. No technical experience is necessary. Learn at your own pace and in your own space. Startup Hack has worked with local state agencies in your area to make it so that qualifying students can get the program costs covered entirely and students can start earning while they learn.
Startup Hack's .NET Coding Bootcamp was a game changer for my career. As someone with no prior programming experience, I was initially intimidated by the idea of learning to code, but the instructors at Startup Hack broke down complex concepts into easy to understand lessons and provided hands-on projects that really cemented my understanding. The curriculum was comprehensive and up to date and got me ready for my first job. What really set Startup Hack apart was the focus on practical, real-world skills. Thanks to Startup Hack, I landed my dream job as a .NET developer within weeks of graduating. I went from knowing nothing about code to building professional-grade web applications in just a few intense months. If you're looking to break into .NET development or level up your coding skills, I cannot recommend Startup Hack enough.
Complete our 3-month coding bootcamp, gain hands-on experience, and land a paid internship. With 2 years of experience, on average, our graduates are making over $80,000 per year. The 3-month program includes technologies from Microsoft, Google, and Facebook. No debt, just a quick path to earning. Check out startuphack.com to code your future and start today.